Chapter 789. Yes, ever since you mentioned it, I've been keeping this group. I've even promoted it on Tieba, using Spade Z's daily life to attract people into the group. It's been very effective. How are they doing now? Wu Zhan glanced at the extremely popular Supreme Alliance members not far away. A faint voice came from the other side of the phone. Everything is fine. After all, when you created the group, you said that it was Spade Z's fan club. As long as those people saw that it was a fan club for Spade Z, they would join us. But that was just the beginning. In the past, they really liked Spade Z, but now, my position in their hearts is higher than Spade Z's. I chat with them, talk to them, and use Spade Z to organize them to write some fanfiction. They are happy writing it, and they don't want to offend anyone. Because of this, Spade Z's official fan club came to warn me, but what's the use? I told the people in the group that since everyone likes Spade Z, it doesn't matter what kind of love it is. It's the official fan club that thinks too highly of themselves. They don't doubt me and feel wronged. Don't worry, they have already formed this mindset. They don't even care about copyright infringement. Why would they care about Spade Z's life? That's good. Wu Zhan narrowed her eyes. He made so many people like him just because of his gaming. We can make use of this to attack him. We will snatch away his things and glory, then let him be attacked by his former fans. How do you think he will feel? That person laughed. He will definitely be in so much pain. Wu Zhan was satisfied with the answer. Good. I'm already in Jiang City, at the competition venue. Go and tell them that Spade Z is actually a girl in disguise. I'll also say a few words in the group and let them cause a ruckus. That person paused. If I say that, will Supreme Alliance? What are you afraid of? It will take some time for them to investigate you over the internet. When they really find you, don't you still have me to help you? Wu Zhan cut him off lightly. That person thought about it. I will do it immediately. Wu Zhan smiled, glancing up at the team members entering one after another. Su Mei had also heard the whole story. She had really underestimated this young Miss Wu. She had not expected her to be so resourceful. This time, that little bastard is going to be out of luck. After all, in this industry, some private groups were created because they liked it. There were also some private groups that used each other to attract fans and brainwash them. There was no need to brainwash them. Just chatting was enough to influence each other. He hadn't expected Wu Zhan to be so smart as to create such a group. Wu Zhan tilted her head. Go spend some money. We will go through the VIP channel and head straight to the team's resting area. I want to tell Brother Mo personally. No problem. Su Mei still had her own connections in the business world. After all, she had also opened an esports company. It would not be a problem for her to enter the competition. The match was getting closer and closer. Everyone was in a different mood. In the ups and downs, there were other hot-blooded things. Lin Feng looked as though he was going to hold a wedding today. It was a pity that the person beside him wasn't the bride but Yun Hu. Yun Hu wasn't used to this guy's sudden change in style. He reached out and pinched his nose. Lin Feng snapped back to his senses. What are you doing? Do you know if it hurts? I woke you up because you were distracted. Yun Hu stuffed a hand into his pocket, standing in the resting area. Lin Feng sighed. You don't understand. I always feel that being too excited isn't a good thing. I can't even hold the mouse properly. Can't hold the mouse properly. Yun Hu glanced at him. The mouse is better than my private area. You can even hold my little Yun Hu. It's just a mouse. What are you so excited about? Lin Feng had been really nervous just now. Now that Yun Hu said that, his face turned red instantly. He held it in for a long time before saying, F***ck, when did Yun Hu become so shameless? Chapter 790. But there was one thing Lin Feng didn't say. Because he felt that he couldn't say it out loud. Who could have imagined that one day, he would see his good brother, who had grown up with him in the same pants, actually flirting with his photo. Hitting. At that time, his whole body froze there. He really froze there. He wasn't even mentally prepared. 10,000 alpacas ran past him. He wanted to find a crack and bury himself in it. However, even a grown man would get angry when he saw another grown man flirting in front of his photo. At that time, he was also angry. He ran over angrily and wanted to beat this person up. But that was Yun Hu. How could he bear to hit him? What the F***ck, of all people, why did you have to shoot at my photo? He couldn't bear to hit him, but he had to remind him verbally. I'm your brother. Even if I was once the campus belle, I'm straight from top to bottom. Tell me. What did Yun Hu say then? Yes. This fellow said, sorry, but I can't control myself. At that time, this fellow's expression was one of despair. He didn't know why, but he looked especially sad. Because he had never seen Yun Hu like that. In his impression, that person had been extremely arrogant since he was young. He wasn't like his captain, who was indifferent. This person was really arrogant. That arrogance was hidden under his reticent appearance. He was domineering. He had been like that since he was young. When he grew up, he became a person that many people liked. Those juniors in the university, some of them specially went to the basketball court and the library to wait for him. Just to see what he was wearing today, to see if he was handsome again. He dared to say that even if this fellow pushed his spectacles when he was reading English materials, those juniors would want to take a photo and post it. Of course, he wasn't bad himself. But he was different from this fellow. This fellow was really easy to find a girlfriend. If he said that he wanted to be in a relationship, he didn't know how many people would fall for him. Unlike him, even if some people became his girlfriend, they would say that his skin was too white and that they would feel inferior when they stood with him. Lin Feng always wanted to tan himself a little more after being used like this. He always envied Yun Hu. That fellow definitely didn't know what it was like to have a crush. On that day, when he turned his head, he was just lying on the bed, not looking at Lin Feng. Lin Feng didn't know what he was thinking. When his black hair fell down, it covered his eyes. You always say that I don't understand the feeling of having a crush. Lin Feng, have you ever thought about the reason why I don't find a girlfriend or a boyfriend? No matter how naive Lin Feng was, he understood what his brother meant when he saw Lin Feng's photo. To be honest, he couldn't bear to see Yun Hu like that. When he asked, do you think I'm disgusting? At that moment, he felt that his ears and face were burning. He hurriedly explained, no, I really didn't. But big brother, why are you shooting at my photo? Yun Hu glanced up abruptly. When he saw his expression, his voice was calm. If you're disgusted, tell me. Who are we? I'm really not disgusted. Lin Feng was afraid that his brother would misunderstand. But you have to give me some time to adapt, right? Why are you? F***ck. I don't know what to say. Anyway, I'm not disgusted, but you can't shoot at me. Yun Hu glanced at him. He probably felt that his thoughts were in a mess. Anyway, he didn't understand that gaze. The competition is about to start. My mood will directly affect the outcome of the competition. Oh right, that was what he suddenly said to him. Don't reject me. Lin Feng scratched his head. He was really a little crazy. But what could he do? That was Yun Hu. Lin Feng didn't agree or reject him. He first gave Yun Hu a punch and then pulled him. King, get up first. Let's play a 2v2. He didn't have the intention to distance himself. He was organizing his thoughts. More importantly, shooting. F***ck. Shooting. Lin Feng lifted his head and looked at the person standing beside him in the uniform. Suddenly, his hands stopped trembling. Shut up. His face was a little hot. He had to be noticed. Yun Hu didn't seem to care about a certain someone exploding. He reached out and handed him a wrist guard. Wear it. Not all esports teams like to wear wrist guards. It seemed like only the Supreme Alliance liked it. This had to do with their gaming habits. Lin Feng originally thought that no one saw any changes on his old face. Unexpectedly, the youngster who had been sitting by the window with a lollipop in her mouth suddenly jumped down with both hands. The zipper of his uniform wasn't pulled all the way up to his head. He walked up to him with a smile and put a hand on his shoulder. What happened just now? It's rare to see you look like you've been stripped naked. What did he mean by being stripped naked? Was Little Spade's language taught by a physical education teacher? Lin Feng was about to reply. Just then, he felt an especially cold gaze from behind him. That gaze didn't belong to anyone else. Their captain. It was especially intense. It was more intense than any other time. Was it an illusion? He felt that their captain was especially concerned about little Spade being intimate with him. Youngster, move your hand away. Sometimes, Lin Feng knew how to protect himself. He didn't want his captain to use his shoulder as an example, so he jumped over to Yunhu. But the moment he jumped, he realized that he was an idiot. Yunhu was more dangerous than anyone else. He turned to Coco's side. Coco was discussing with Feng Shang about how to bite a rabbit. One of them spoke extremely quickly while the other stuttered. The two of them didn't seem to have any communication barriers. Wuxia was right about one thing. He felt that other than him, no one else in the team was straightforward. Of course, it was all to adjust their emotions before the competition. The National League was too important to everyone. Shui Yaoyao had already started her final checkup. It was to prevent any accidents during the competition. Originally, the atmosphere in the lounge was good. But right at this moment, suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Everyone in the team turned towards the door. At first, they thought it was the staff and fans that Feng Yi had arranged for. Unexpectedly, the person who came wasn't Feng Yi. Instead, it was Wu Zhen, who had appeared at this time. Everyone was about to compete. Naturally, they didn't want anyone to enter the lounge at this time. They didn't expect anyone other than the members to enter. Everyone was looking at each other. Yunhu understood the current situation. For example, the Yin family had started to break off their relationship with the Wu family in some business alliances. These couldn't be done by old Master N. It was done by Captain's grandson. Captain had also expressed that Wu Zhen shouldn't stay in the crime squad. Hence, it was obvious that Captain didn't have a good impression of Miss Wu. This time, she came looking for them at this time. Something wasn't right. Bo Jiu stopped what she was doing. She didn't see Wu Zhen. Instead, she saw the three behind her. Were they in cahoots? Bo Jiu raised a brow. She put her hands down and glanced up at the other party. Her eyes were so dark that they seemed to be able to see through everything. From Su Mei's expression, it was easy to tell that they were here to cause trouble. Moreover, they were here to cause trouble for her. Lin Feng was still in a daze. But even so, Lin Feng could still recognize Su Mei. After all, she was Little Spade's 3. He remembered that she had contacted him and wanted to use his connections to let her son enter Supreme Alliance. Lin Feng never had a good impression of such people. What was going on? Chapter 791. Sure, let's go somewhere else. Suddenly, Qin Mo stood up, a smile on his face. Everyone knew that Qin Mo rarely smiled, but when he did, there was a devilish allure. He extinguished the cigarette in his hand and glanced at Wu Zhen, speaking slowly. Let's talk in private. Wu Zhen had never seen Qin Mo in such a state. His uniform was half open and he wore a t-shirt inside, looking extremely handsome and oppressive. He even pulled her out of the lounge. Wu Zhen chuckled. She could feel the aura close to her and turned to glance at Bo Jiu. Bo Jiu lifted her fingers. How should she put it? She felt as though her pet was being insulted. Yunhu furrowed his brows. Lin Feng blurted out, F***CK, he couldn't help turning towards his teammates. Don't you think Captain is behaving strangely today? The others were confused, but even then, they knew one thing. Captain doesn't ignore girls, regardless of who they are. He doesn't even bother with boys, Coco added. Except for Little Spade. Bo Jiu arched a brow. She bit the zipper of her jacket and lowered her head to pull it up. She smiled. I'm going to pee, you guys can continue. Lin Feng immediately understood what the youngster meant. He walked over and patted Bo Jiu's shoulder. Don't worry, Captain has already been turned gay by you. He probably can't be straight anymore. You're the only one looking for him, so don't be jealous. If you have to pee, don't suffocate yourself. Bo Jiu, do you know that I'm even sadder when I hear you say that he can't be straight anymore? All right, I understand. Bo Jiu patted Lin Feng. I'll ask you about what happened with Almighty Yun another day. I don't have time to care about your feelings today, little submissive Lin. With that, Bo Jiu turned to leave. Lin Feng's outstretched arm froze in midair. Little submissive Lin. Little submissive. Submissive. Submissive your head. Even if I'm with Yunhu, I'm still on the offensive. As soon as Lin Feng roared out this sentence, the entire lounge fell silent. Almost all the team members were looking at him. Yunhu glanced at him. Lin Feng was stunned. He felt that he had done something stupid again. He tried his best to explain, "That, I didn't mean it that way. I just..." "So you two are really together?" Coco bit the rabbit's ear. "Then why did you lie to me last time and say that you guys are just brothers?" "But it's okay, Brother Feng. All of us will wish you and Brother Tiger the best." Feng Shang nodded his head in agreement. Shui Yaoyao asked curiously, "Did you plan to announce the news today? It's the first day of the finals, so it's more memorable." Lin Feng wanted to continue. His left hand was suddenly held in the palm of someone's hand. Turning his head, he saw a chiseled side profile and a deep voice. "That's right, we plan to announce it today." Lin Feng widened his eyes. "Announce? What?" What he just said was just, "Thank you everyone for your blessings. After the competition, I'll treat you to barbecue and drinks." "Damn it, it's not like we're getting married. What do you mean by treating me to a drink?" Lin Feng was about to explode. Yunhu glanced over. "The competition is about to start. Don't let it affect your mood no matter how excited you are." Lin Feng. Forget it, the competition was more important. This fellow was getting more and more shameless. F***CK. Chapter 792. Shui Yaoyao was worried about the same thing as Lin Feng. Ever since Su Mei had appeared, Shui Yaoyao felt uneasy. Besides, that person had come with Wu Zhen. She hadn't forgotten the call Jiangsu had received from Wu Zhen. She was starting to worry about what Wu Zhen wanted to say to Almighty Qin. If she wanted to talk about that secret, what would His Highness Zhou do? Shui Yaoyao started to feel uneasy at the thought. She wanted to head out and tell Bo Jiu. But at this moment, Feng Yi appeared, wiping his sweat. He was dressed in a proper suit, looking very businesslike. The seating arrangements are almost done. There are official and unofficial ones. There's less than an hour until the competition. Get ready. With that, he scanned the resting area, frowning. Where are Little Spade and Almighty Qin? They're out. Feng Shang was more daring at this moment. Feng Yi frowned even deeper. They're going out now? Wu Zhen is here. Yunhu glanced at him, hinting at something. There should be something. Others might not know, but as Supreme Alliance's manager, Feng Yi knew what it meant. Young Master Qin had already terminated his partnership with the Wu family. Wu Zhen's appearance wasn't a good sign. He thought back to the incident of the coke being splashed by the haters. The more Feng Yi thought about it, the more he felt that something was amiss. He narrowed his eyes. I'm going to take a look at the audience. Stay here and wait for Little Spade. All right. Okay. Just like that, when Shui Yaoyao wanted to head out, the youngster was long gone. Similarly, Bo Jiu didn't follow him. Since she couldn't keep up, there was no need to force it. She reached out to wear her black mask, using one hand to push herself over the obstacle in front of her. Her phone rang in her pocket. It was a phone call. There wasn't any caller ID. Bo Jiu recognized the string of numbers. Tilting his body to the side, he dodged the incoming group of fans and quickly swung his body to the side. Then, his back was pressed against the wall. The fans were still chatting and laughing, completely unaware that there was someone in front of them. Bo Jiu was too fast. Once the footsteps were far away, Bo Jiu picked up the call. Hello. Hoshino. According to the hint you gave, the information was purchased successfully. Tracking has begun. Hoshino was also at the venue, but he was in disguise and sat in the audience seats. The corner of the youngster's mouth curled up. After the competition, we'll look into it. But there might be some trouble on my side. Trouble? Hoshino glanced sideways, his eyes clear. Do you need me to go over? Bo Jiu swung her head back. There's no need. Let's compete first. I'll probably know what trouble I'll be facing soon. If anything happens, we'll activate the plan. However, we have to wait for the competition to end. He couldn't lose this match. She said it before. She would never let anyone drag that person down from his pedestal. Except for this point. She could handle anything. Even if the Almighty found out that she was Z. In the distance, the voices of the fans could still be heard. The influence was great, and it was enough to show how many people had come to the finals. The other side. Wu Zhen and Su Mei were brought to a meeting room. Su Mei understood the meaning behind Wu Zhen's gaze. She walked to the door and didn't follow. That person probably wanted to enjoy her and young Master Qin's private world. She wouldn't disturb them. Anyway, in less than an hour, that gay's reputation would be ruined. Forget about young Master Qin. Chapter 793. Su Mei originally wanted to wait outside the door to see how the gay would be ruined by his fans, but she didn't expect that the moment she sat down, a Special Forces soldier would walk over from the corridor. The Special Forces soldier's military uniform was already eye-catching, and coupled with his unforgettable appearance and aura, Ongen was none other than the person who had stolen their birth records from the county hospital. Su Mei wasn't stupid. With her usual scheming, she knew that if he was really a soldier stationed in the county, he wouldn't be here. Now that he was here, it could only mean one thing. He was most likely from the Qin family. Because young Master Qin was here. Before Su Mei could stand up, the Special Forces soldier had already walked over. He had a roguish smile, as though he had been in the army for many years. Young Master Qin asked me to catch a turtle in a jar, and it was the right decision. Did you really think that you could get away scot-free by using your connections? Now that you've escaped, I can wipe out the Wu family. Hearing this, Su Mei seemed to understand something, the blood draining from her face instantly. She wanted to turn around and tell Wu Zhen not to say anything. But it was too late. They thought that young Master Qin didn't know anything. Now it seemed. Not only did young Master Qin know everything, but he had already decided to deal with them. Why? Just because of that little country bumpkin? Su Mei was filled with hatred, but what could she do? She had already been caught red-handed. And in the conference room just a door away. Wu Zhen had never been so excited before because she, the proud daughter of heaven, had suffered too many setbacks because of Spade Z. Based on what? This time, she didn't just want to snatch all the glory from the other party. She wanted to let him have a taste of the backlash from her fans. Wu Zhen felt even happier at this thought. She was about to speak. The person sitting in the boss's chair tilted his head and lit a cigarette, holding it between his slender fingers. He said slowly, "If you're here to tell me that Spade Z is actually a girl, you don't have to say any more." All of a sudden, Wu Zhen felt as though a bucket of cold water had been poured over her head, extinguishing all her glee. Qin Mo held a lighter in his hand, fiddling with it. "Goshawk, come in." At this moment, Wu Zhen realized that it wasn't a lighter, but a communication device that only the Special Forces had. Pah! The way the SWAT soldier pushed open the door was a little rough, using a kick. The main reason was that he was still holding on to a person. Wu Zhen whipped her head back, glancing at the soldier before turning back to Su Mei. Her lips were trembling. "Brother Mo, you shouldn't have done this to me, you. Why shouldn't I do the same to you?" With a loud smack, the ashtray on the conference table was thrown onto the wall behind her. Wu Zhen was stunned because she had never seen Qin Mo in such a state. Qin Mo stood up and lowered his body. With his battle uniform on, he looked as though he was killing someone in a game. Abusing your power and harming others, you don't deserve to say those dirty tricks in front of that person. Aren't you good at playing? Let me play with you then. Old Master Wu bailed you out and allowed you to come to Jiang City the next day. He must have used a lot of connections. Who did he bribe? Who did he get involved with? This time, I'll deal with all of them. Chapter 794. Are you happy to hear this news? You don't even have the heart to touch me. The person who was splashed with coke by your fan hasn't even complained. What right do you have to complain? Don't worry, this time, the Wu family will be buried with you. Wu Jin's face had never been so pale. Especially when she heard the words this time, the Wu family will be buried with you. Her face turned even uglier. What did I do wrong? She wasn't willing to be treated this way. She clenched her fists and roared. The Special Forces soldier found it hilarious when he heard this. Young Master had made it clear that she abused her power and harmed others. What did she do wrong? Where did this weird thought process come from? Wu Zhen clenched her fists. I did all this because I like you. This kind of love disgusts me. Qin Mo didn't even glance at Wu Zhan when he said this. Wu Zhan was angry and hateful, but there was nothing she could do. She had never expected such an outcome. This wasn't what she had expected at all. The more Wu Zhen thought about it, the deeper she bit her lips. Sumei knew about the relationship between the An family and the Wu family. Her mind turned, and she wanted to make a final struggle. Young Master Qin, Miss Wu didn't do anything wrong. She just likes you. Don't be like this, it's not good for anyone. Oh. Qin Mo arched a brow, smiling faintly. You must be the Miss Su who interfered in someone else's family. So in the world of the three, you are the wronged party after hurting someone. You say you didn't do anything wrong? I don't want to listen here. Goshawk will bring you to the police station. What you did is enough for you to stay in there for a while. Go and talk to the prisoners. After all, you don't have any morals or legal knowledge. You should be able to talk. I still have a competition, so I'll take my leave. When Qin Mo said these words, he was really like a devil. From the beginning to the end, he was very elegant, but he was able to hit the snake where it hurt. Wu Zhen wanted to say something, but a group of people rushed in from the other side of the door. They were wearing the same uniform she used to wear. But compared to her, the aura they exuded was completely different. Miss Wu, Miss Su, please come with us. Wu Zhen was really going crazy. Her fingers dug into the wooden chair, but she couldn't resist the current situation. When her hands were cuffed, she lowered her head and laughed, her face a little twisted. Brother Mo, do you really think I'll give up just because you're doing this to me? Spade Z won't have a good ending either. Just you wait and see how her fans will destroy her. In an instant, Qin Mo stopped in his tracks and turned around, taking large strides towards Wu Zhen. Then he pulled the man up. His eyes were filled with anger. What did you do? Qin Mo was really smart. Wu Zhen's words were enough for him to connect the dots. Wu Zhen laughed maniacally. Qin Mo knew he wouldn't be able to get anything out of her. Retracting his hand, his gaze deepened. Take them away. Don't interrogate them too quickly. Take your time. Miss Wu has always cared about her reputation. Bring her around the police station and tell everyone what she's done. Qin Mo. Wu Zhan was filled with hatred. His eyes seemed to be emitting poison. Qin Mo didn't have time to deal with this person. He opened the meeting room door with a bang. He made a call as he walked. The call was to Feng Yi. Chapter 795. Until Qin Mo called for the second time. Feng Yi was walking in the middle of the hall. There were spectators everywhere. Under such circumstances, Feng Yi was starting to panic. But the more anxious he was, the more he told himself to calm down. After the coke splashing incident last time, Yi Zichen's expression changed. This time, he was much more vigilant. If anything happened, there would definitely be a way to gather these people. But Feng Yi couldn't think of the method. After all, everything came from the uneasiness in his heart. Until someone beside him reminded him. Boss Feng. Feng Yi saw the call and picked it up immediately. Hello, young Master Qin. There's a situation with the fans. That was Qin Mo's first sentence. Don't arrange for them to enter yet. Feng Yi didn't want to arrange for them to enter either. He glanced at the dense crowd. Young Master Qin, it's too late. They are already looking for their seats. Qin Mo narrowed his eyes, walking even faster. Go look for the president of Little Spade's official fan club, Sister Turtle. I don't have much time, just 10 minutes. Hold them off for me for 10 minutes. Feng Yi tightened his grip on the phone. All right, but I'm not sure how they will organize it. Illegitimate group, Qin Mo said slowly. They wouldn't dare to do such things on a transparent platform. Instead, they would create an illegitimate group to gather fans and cut off their connection with the outside world. It's easy to brainwash them. Feng Yi, you told me the coke incident wouldn't happen again. This time, I hope you can do it. You said you would protect every esports player. Right now, she needs your protection. Feng Yi stilled, his lips curling up, returning to his foxy self. I understand. Don't worry, I'm still a qualified manager. As he said this, Feng Yi had already started walking towards the west, pushing aside the audience one by one as he excused himself. No one had ever seen the elegant vice boss Feng in such a state. He was the most famous manager in the esports industry. His hair never messed up, but today, it was messed up. All in order to reach a certain place earlier. But Feng Yi had just arrived. Sister Turtle spoke up with a solemn expression. Mr. Feng, something seems to have happened. Feng Yi didn't ask why. The other party held a fan's hand and walked to his side. Tell Mr. Feng. Only I entered a group. At first, I thought it was a group that liked Big Spade, but then I realized it wasn't the case. They used Big Spade to attract fans, and after infringing on Big Spade's copyright, they said they weren't at fault, ignoring the 3 warnings from the officials. The other party's manager said the official fans couldn't represent Big Spade, and that if they wanted to resolve this matter, they would let Big Spade take the legal route himself. I really don't know, when did a thief become so thick-skinned? The person who infringed on someone else's rights was in the right? Big Spade probably found it weird too, so he posted a message on his official Weibo, saying, "Don't disband the group that infringed on your rights." I thought they would restrain themselves after Big Spade spoke personally, but that wasn't the case. First, the group leader came out and said, "Isn't it just an apology? I apologize, but I didn't do anything wrong. The group will not be disbanded." That wasn't all. The group manager jumped out as though he had lost his memory, saying that even though there wasn't a need to treat a thief with respect, Spade Z's actions of letting the fans of both sides quarrel and taking the legal route were extreme. The manager was the one who wanted Big Spade to take the legal route, and now the one who was biting Big Spade to the extreme was the same manager. Some people in the group didn't understand what was going on, and started to hate Little Spade. Infringement is harm, it's a mistake, it's not only forbidden by law, it's also forbidden by morality. I don't understand what's going on in this world. Morally we should be condemning, but why is the thief the one in the right? Now they have something to say, and I'm worried that this will hurt Big Spade. I used to be one of them, but I'm glad that I saw the whole story from the outside world. Otherwise, I'm really afraid I'll become that kind of person, the kind of person who steals something I like and treats it as my own, not caring who it belongs to. I like someone, and I use the excuse of liking him to hurt him. I don't want to grow up like that. I have my own bottom line. Even though there weren't many Spade Z fans around, they were all people who had accompanied the youngster all the way. Hearing this, there wasn't a single person who wasn't angry. It was a darkness they couldn't imagine. And the angriest person couldn't resist Qin Mo, who was walking over. He just stood there. Even though he knew that at this moment, his appearance would cause quite a commotion. Even though he knew that there were some things he wouldn't be forgiven for. But right now, Qin Mo didn't care if anyone forgave him or not. Ever since he started playing the game, he had always been fearless and indifferent. Even now. That group, where is it? Almost everyone could feel the aura emanating from Qin Mo's body. It was bone-chilling. It's on my phone, I haven't returned it. The child was a little stunned by Almighty Qin's attitude. Unexpectedly, Almighty Qin praised her. Smart. Then he spread his hands. Can I take a look at your phone? The girl didn't know how to react. Qin Mo smiled. Feng Yi, give my wallet to the child, my identity card is in it. I'm not a person who would steal a phone. The girl waved her hand. Almighty Qin, that's not what I meant. Then take my wallet. I'll use my privacy to exchange for your phone. Don't worry, I won't look at the other messages on your phone. Qin Mo stood tall and slender, his uniform draped over his body, watching the commotion over there. His voice was low but firm. For this matter, I want to thank you on behalf of Little Spade, on behalf of the Supreme Alliance. Similarly, it's not just Big Spade. All of us who play esports are never afraid of people turning anti-fans or fans turning anti-fans. We are afraid that those who truly support us, those who give us strength, will be deceived in such a way. Our anger will always come from not being able to protect what is important to us. At this point, Qin Mo paused, his deep eyes like a burning lamp, never extinguishing. And the Big Spade that you like, to me, is as important as 1,000 pieces of gold. Feng Yi. Young Master Qin, Almighty Qin, if you have something to say it properly. Chapter 796. To be honest, the fans of Spade City were a little confused. They were confused by Almighty Qin's last sentence. One of the girls tugged at Sister Turtle's sleeve. Sister, did you hear that? Sister Turtle had a lot going on in her mind. For example, she didn't expect Almighty Qin to be gay so openly. Facing the two cuties who were looking at her, she coughed heavily, not knowing what to say. But it didn't matter how Almighty Qin wanted to be gay. What mattered was that something had gone wrong. Obviously, Almighty Qin could see more clearly than anyone else. He just swiped his phone screen twice, then looked up at the venue. It was crucial to find out who planned this. After all, time was tight. Qin Mo's eyes scanned from left to right. Fortunately, after the last incident, Feng Yi divided the official and unofficial fans into two groups when he arranged for people to enter the venue. However, the unofficial members of the fan club were not necessarily part of the organizers this time. Qin Mo's eyes darkened bit by bit, almost turning black. Sister Turtle had been through all this, so she knew what the situation was like now. Ever since the official Spade Z fan club was established, there were many fan groups related to Spade Z. The officials reminded people not to join them and to come to the official fan club. But the officials didn't care whether they joined them or not. But this time, it was obviously different. Through a medium called the group, they gathered Spade fans with the reason of liking him, and then caused tortious damage to Big Spade. The other party was sure that they couldn't find them among the many unofficial fans. It was easy to imagine what the thoughts of the person who had organized this were. Time was really tight. There was only half an hour left before the start of the competition. Every time the clock ticked, whether it was Feng Yi or the people who knew about this, their mood would sink a little. There was an indescribable feeling of powerlessness. The feeling of being unable to breathe. The feeling of knowing that the other party was going to hurt you, and even after hurting you, they would bite you back. It spread from their hands to their eyes. Some of the cute girls really turned their heads, a little like crying. They were thinking, why couldn't they protect that person? They wanted to tell the world how good that person was. But they couldn't even protect that person. Watching everything unfold before his eyes, he was so angry that his fingers trembled. How could it be like this? This world should not be like this. Qin Mo stood there for a full 30 seconds. Then he picked up his phone and dialed a number. His voice was deep. Fatty, bring your notebook to the front desk of the venue now. This call meant that Qin Mo had thought of a way to solve this problem. It was to use Fatty's hacking skills. But no one expected it. As soon as Qin Mo finished speaking, Chapter 797. Qin Mo looked at the guy in front of him, not saying a word. Bo Jiu removed her mask, arching a brow. Trust me, I'm much faster than him when it comes to investigating. With that, Feng Yi was reminded of how Little Spade had shown off her amazing internet skills during the selection contest. But this matter would affect Little Spade's mood. The competition was about to start. If Little Spade was the one to investigate, it would mean. The intelligent Bo Jiu glanced at Feng Yi's expression and seemed to understand something. She smiled brightly. The competition will start in 27 minutes. It's not like I haven't crossed hands with Fatty before. It would take at least half an hour for him to check something. I can settle it in 10 minutes. Since Supreme Alliance has made it this far, the competition should be the most important. There were too many people's blood, sweat and tears in this competition. The Uncle Yin she knew, the Shui Yao Yao she knew, the Feng Shang she knew. And the pet she had found when she came here. She had always said it. Compared to his looks, she liked the Almighty's values more. He was the main attacker who could take on 5 opponents at once, but he had been a support for so many years. Because Supreme Alliance needed him to play like this, he played like this. That kind of responsibility was rare. Bo Jiu had always been alone. If you asked her what her values were, it would be a blur. But it was more important to protect this person. Supreme Alliance couldn't lose anymore. Perhaps after today, she might not be able to fight alongside him anymore. But no matter what, she had to ensure that nothing went wrong. Let me investigate. Bo Jiu glanced up at Qin Mo, her eyes shining brightly like never before. Those who understood her would understand that she had made up her mind. Hoshino was in the arena too, leaning against the railing as he glanced over. Their original plan was to investigate the suspects after the competition. They immediately went to investigate the suspects that the key crimes unit had identified. It was obvious that Z was in trouble. Otherwise, she wouldn't have asked to investigate in front of Qin Mo. Otherwise, she wouldn't have mentioned it in front of Qin Mo. Z wouldn't have done that in the past. Z wouldn't have done that in the past. She would have a perfect disguise. The moment she picked up the notebook, it would mean that she had given up a layer of disguise. Hoshino wasn't sure if Qin Mo would notice anything from this incident. But for Z, it was undoubtedly an extra layer of danger. Why would Z do this? Hoshino glanced sideways. His eyelashes were long, and his eyes were filled with questions. But in the next second, he smiled. Did he find something else that he wanted to protect? Just as Hoshino had this thought, he heard a voice from the other side. It was slightly deep. Give this guy a laptop. It was Qin Mo. He kept his phone and looked at the youngster. 10 minutes. If I can't find anything, I will get Feng Yi to clear the area. No problem. Bo Jiu was naturally excited when it came to investigating. After all, under the Almighty's supervision, it had been a long time since she had the chance to break codes or attack websites. As a hacker, it was lonely to be reduced to playing games. However, can you tell me what I want to investigate first? Qin Mo reached out and passed the girl's phone to her. Bo Jiu slid it twice, her expression serious. The brainwashing is impressive. I'm impressed. Feng Yi. Is this the time to praise him? Little Spade, wake up. Chapter 798. The horn signaling the start of the competition rang once more. Supreme Alliance's fans weren't the only ones present. There were fans from other teams as well. In such a scene, everyone was waiting for the final support. If it had been 10 years ago, esports would have been an unpopular industry. But now, large-scale esports competitions were enough to attract millions of people. The large screen in the arena opened with a swoosh. Before the competition, there would always be an introduction of the investors. Everyone who came to watch the competition was looking for their corresponding seats. Anyone who had watched an esports competition before could imagine the majestic scene of a sea of people. But, even in such a noisy environment, Yi Zichen could not help but laugh. There was someone who didn't seem to be affected at all. She sat in the middle of the audience, her laptop on her legs. She inserted the USB she carried with her into the port. She hadn't put on her uniform yet. That head of silver hair was too eye-catching. Without a word, Qin Mo tore off his uniform and threw it over her head. This way, even if the media rushed over, they wouldn't be able to interrupt what she was about to do. The other fans understood that time was of the essence and they couldn't allow anyone to disturb Big Spade at this moment. They stood on the left and right, forming a protective wall. They tried their best not to come over. Most of the time, this was all they could do. Bo Jiu's fingers moved. When she noticed the movements of the fans, she lifted her face and smiled. Thank you. Seeing this, a little cutie was very excited. After all, they really liked Big Spade, especially when Big Spade was playing. He was so handsome. But this little cutie was a guy. Even when confessing, he had to first glance at Almighty Qin. After that, he didn't dare to confess to his idol. How awkward. Bo Jiu didn't beat around the bush. She turned on the hotspot on her phone and connected to the laptop. Then she pushed the laptop out and said to a blushing girl, "Can you log into your account? If there is an account in the group, it will be easy to lock onto the other party's IP address." The girl nodded. When she inched closer to the youngster, her hands trembled slightly. Bo Jiu arched a brow and reached out to hold the girl. Don't be nervous. The girl thought to herself, I'm not nervous, I'm excited. How can he be so handsome? His skin is so smooth and his voice is so gentle. I want to pinch him, but unfortunately, Almighty Qin is here. Qin Mo was indeed standing at the side. In order to be able to move better. Bo Jiu's ability to search and Qin Mo's deduction. It could be said that this was a top-notch combination. Many people thought that by hiding behind the internet, they could do whatever they wanted. In fact, that was not the case. There were many ways to find someone. As long as he found the other party's IP address, he would be able to lock onto the other party's location. Even if the other party used a mobile phone to log into the account, some things had been concealed. But that wasn't a problem for her. Of course, any breakthrough would require dialogue. Bojo was a hacker. Naturally, she had her own ways to lock onto the target. First, you need a port. The moment Bojo placed her fingers on the keyboard, those who saw this scene had nothing but amazement in their eyes. Because no one could clearly see how the young man's fingers were typing, they only felt that it was a kind of cool flowing water. He didn't even use the mouse. Instead, he used the keyboard to switch windows. His eyes reflected the dialog boxes and codes that kept popping up on the screen. Hunting. Chapter 799. Her typing speed was so fast it was dazzling. The clicking sound was very rhythmic, and it was difficult to eliminate its uniqueness when mixed with the clamor of the crowd. The messages were still coming in. This was a help to Bojo since it was useful to lock down the IP address. Bojo took a moment before sending a message. But her words almost caused her to be kicked out of the group. The fans watching by the side were worried for the youngster. Even Feng Yi's mouth twitched as he watched from the side. At this moment, you sent a message in the group. Big Spade is so handsome. Are you sure you aren't looking for a tea? The people inside are disgusted by Big Spade. How can you say such things? Feng Yi felt that it wasn't a good idea to let Little Spade do this. Bojo chuckled, turning to look at Qin Mo. She was still trying to tempt her pet. Brother Mo, can't I speak the truth in this day and age? I'm the Skybreaker. I haven't mentioned my other strengths, for example. I'm good at games. I often get the first kill and I'm good at earning money. People like me aren't easy to find. Feng Yi smirked. Little Spade, did you know that you were trying to convince the Almighty to marry you? With that in mind, Feng Yi glanced at Qin Mo. What exactly did you like about this guy? Narcissism? Cut the crap. Continue working or I'll throw you out. Qin Mo didn't look at Feng Yi, instead placing his hand on the youngster's head, pressing it gently. Even though he was warning him, his thin lips were smiling. He didn't look like he was going to throw him out. It was obvious he was being sarcastic. The fans felt as though they had been stuffed with another round of dog food. Almighty Qin's boyfriend-like actions. Were they really not intentional? Hoshino, who wasn't far away, saw the entire scene. His hand stilled. When he glanced up, his gaze landed on the youngster's straight back. Z. You would rather shed a layer of skin and take the risk to fight in front of so many people. Was it because of Qin Mo? Hoshino wasn't sure what their relationship was. But if he knew a person well, he would be able to tell from her actions. Moreover, it was Hoshino versus Z. For a hacker, especially a hacker like Z, hiding himself was more important than anything else. This was Z's most perfect work. But at this moment, Z exposed his back to the enemy. It was revealed to the most mysterious profiler in the case-solving team. What does this mean? Z, there's no way you didn't know. For you. Was Qin Mo someone you would protect even if you had to go this far? Hoshino glanced at the crowd again. Qin Mo leaned forward, intentionally or unintentionally blocking the youngster's line of sight as she typed. A phone login is different from a computer login. The IP address will be disguised. Qin Mo understood the basics. After all, he had caught Z before. That's why I let them talk more. When Bojo lifted her lips, she gave off a mischievous aura. You have to pay the price for refuting my handsomeness. With a snap, his slender fingers tapped on the enter key with a crisp sound. Other than the code on the screen, a dialog box popped up. It was the interface of the manager, with a performance tab. After clicking on the Resource Monitor button, the IP address of the sender of the data packet would be displayed. This meant that the IP address of the person who had spoken to Bojo alone would be locked down. When these things appeared, the fans were stunned once again. They couldn't understand it, but they found it cool. Even if they couldn't understand it, they could see the IP address bar flashing. Especially when there was a reply when the youngster typed a message. With a snap, she pressed the enter key. The IP address was locked. But at this moment, It wasn't useful to just lock down the address. Time was tight. There wasn't any extra time for Bo Jio to check the exact location. But right from the start, Bo Jio hadn't intended to use the IP address to confirm the exact location. Instead, it was hacking. Back then, it had been the admin who had checked the group. The IP address that Bo Jio had hacked was obviously the admin. So many accounts have been dropped, seriously. Bo Jio arched a brow as she operated. Can't you use a little more advanced hacking? Feng Yi was starting to panic. Was this the time to complain about the other party's lack of methods? Who was the one who had praised him previously? Time. Little Spade, time. Wait a minute, code analysis. Bo Jio moved her fingers. It's coming. What was coming? This youngster had obviously dodged the loophole in the firewall and headed straight for the heart of the other party. When these things appeared on the laptop screen, they were strings of code that no one could understand. Only the pair of hands moved faster than before. When the youngster typed on the keyboard, the laptop would shake slightly. Is Big Spade hacking the other party's account? A fan asked in a low voice. The other fan shook her head. At this moment, Bo Jio laughed. A real hacker would never hack an account. That's too low class. I'm planting a fun virus. It's called hacking. With that, the youngster's fingers paused. With a swoosh, a bunch of images appeared on the screen, each one different. There were only 13 people who had actually arrived at the competition venue. This is... It wasn't just the fans, even Feng Yi was shocked. Phone selfie. How exactly did he do it? Everyone was looking at the youngster who was controlling the laptop, feeling as though the world had turned into a fantasy. From what they knew, who could control a phone from a distance? But they didn't know that a real hacker would be able to find the loophole as long as there was an internet connection, launching an all-out hunt. Only Qin Mo remained as noble and indifferent as ever when he saw this scene. His eyes were deep, and he had one hand in his pocket as he swept his gaze across the venue. He looked casual, but in fact, he was highly focused. In less than 3 seconds, he immediately locked onto one of them. It wasn't because of the person's appearance, but because of the way he had flung his phone. The phone didn't listen to him. That was a subconscious reaction that everyone would form. Qin Mo reached out, pressing the Bluetooth earpiece on his left ear. Upper left, 45 degrees, grab. As a sniper, this wasn't the first time he had been used in such a manner. Besides, these people weren't seated in the audience, they had mixed in with the unofficial fans. In the past, he hadn't been able to make a move because he was afraid of implicating the innocent. But now, he had locked onto anyone who shook his phone. It was really emotional. It seemed like a scene from a movie. At this moment, Feng Yi realized something. The reason Almighty Qin didn't leave. It wasn't just to accompany the youngster. Instead, his field of vision was directly aimed at the unofficial fans' seating area. Was that why they had chosen this spot from the start? Because it was a good field of vision. Almighty Qin knew something had happened. He could understand why. But Little Spade had chosen this spot out of all places. He must have known beforehand that something was going to happen, right? Why did he suddenly feel like his intelligence was low? Shouldn't he, as the manager, have known earlier? Feng Yi glanced up, glancing towards Qin Mo and Bo Jio. One of them was seated while the other was standing. One of them wasn't moving while the other was giving orders through his earpiece. They had the same strong aura but a different handsome face. With the uniform on, they looked like the commander of a Star Trek. When the two of them were together, it was an impactful scene. Only the people present could understand how it felt. No wonder some people were infatuated. They were so handsome. Not only was their coordination perfect, but they didn't waste any time in connecting. The fans who were fortunate enough to witness this scene. They were speechless. After all, they had come with the mindset of watching their idol play games. They hadn't expected to see something even cooler than the game. The images on the laptop screen disappeared one after another. The people who had flung their phones didn't know why they had been taken out of the venue. They weren't angry. They hadn't accomplished what they wanted. How could they be happy? They hadn't even released the news. They hadn't told everyone about how Spade Z had bullied their true fans. And most importantly, the manager had mentioned a piece of news. What exactly was it? They hadn't done anything yet. Why were they taken away? Not far away. The youngster pressed the enter key. Only 2 words appeared on the huge screen. Ka. All of them were hunted. The organizer watched as the people he had planted disappeared one by one. His first reaction was to call Wu Zhen. But the strange thing was that the first time he called, his phone could still get through, but no one picked up. The second time he called, his phone didn't listen to him. It turned on the camera function and took a picture of his face. At that moment, he really panicked. He kept flinging his phone, thinking that he had pressed the wrong button and the screen was locked. He wanted to switch it off and restart. The organizer was smart. If he switched off his phone, he could indeed cut off the network control. But Almighty Qin's speed of finding people didn't give him a chance to escape. Just after he rebooted his phone, a voice suddenly rang out. The venue's security appeared in front of him. "Sir, please come with us." The organizer was smart. "I bought a ticket to watch the competition. Now that it's about to start, I have to go with you just because you asked me to?" "Why?" The security looked at each other and knew that he was a prick. They tried to reason with him. "Because you broke the rules, we need to verify it." Chapter 800. Hearing this, the field control narrowed his eyes. "Please cooperate with us. I'm not leaving." Not only did that person not cooperate, but he also started to make a fuss, his voice getting louder and louder. The field control couldn't do anything, so they had to do it directly. That person really couldn't accept that the trap he had set up for so long was broken just like that. He tried his best to stir up trouble, trying to get people's attention. The field control was after all the field control. It was obvious that he was here to cause trouble. If they didn't pull him away, they wouldn't let him cause trouble. However, the field control was still very polite, so they politely asked the person to talk first. Unfortunately, the field control was polite, but that person found a loophole. Just as they were about to pull him to the exit, that person looked at the youngster and Qin Mo who were walking towards him, as well as the fans behind them. His eyes were vicious. After all, he had been doing things for so many years and had never been caught. This time, even if he was caught, he wanted to let people know what kind of person Spade Z was. Anyway, that kind of thing, as long as one fan knew, all the fans would know. What's more, there was the field control here. That person exerted strength in his fingers and changed the direction of the camera. He yelled at the fans behind the youngster. "The Spade Z you like is just a woman dressed as a man. She has never been a hunk." It was just one sentence. Even in a noisy environment, everyone near him could hear it clearly, whether it was the field control or the fans. And Feng Yi, who was at the scene. There was no way to describe their expressions. Because at that moment, there was no expression. Everyone seemed to be frozen in place. There was a moment of stagnation in time. It was as if the surrounding sound and air had been sucked away. Such a scene shouldn't have appeared in such a lively place. Because there was still a competition. 15 minutes later, the finals would begin. Swoosh. 8 screens hung in the middle of the room. Using 3D sound effects, they began to slowly descend from the ceiling. Every link was made with top-notch equipment. In a 3-dimensional form, this esports competition that was attracting the attention of the country was being broadcasted live. Adjustments were being made to each of the cameras. On the 8 big screens, there were stereo sound effects. If you went to an esports competition, you would know what kind of standard it was. Every screen had a different introduction for each team. They were the team's promotional videos. The special sound effect of entering the game was played in the promotional video. It was like a fire that could ignite the entire youth. That youth belonged to them. That kind of scene seemed to only be seen in comics. When the promotional video of Supreme Alliance came out, the fans who came to watch were all excited. They clenched the hands of the people sitting next to them in excitement, their hearts trembling uncontrollably. It was about to begin. He had been waiting for this scene for 3 years. It was about to begin. There was a group of people. From countless honors to falling to rock bottom. Then he climbed up from the bottom of the valley bit by bit. That group of people had been through too much. Now, at this moment, they could finally stand up again. The defending champion in the hearts of the fans, Supreme Alliance. However, the fans didn't know. It was at the exit of the northern corner of the esports arena. The air froze for a second. Chapter 801. He was still thinking of what to say. But this time, he had just opened his mouth, and before he could say anything, his kneecap was kicked in the face. That kick was ruthless. It was also very strong. With just one kick, the person was kicked out of the arena. In the safety passage, there was a circular wall. That person's back was hit, and all that was left was pain. He lifted his head, wanting to shout again. However, his chin was pinched by someone. A handsome face appeared in front of him, making him feel as if he was frozen, and his fingers were trembling. No one saw his expression clearly, but he half squatted down, and with his face tilted, he whispered softly in that person's ear. "Infringement, causing trouble, do you really think no one will care about you?" Feng Yi's first reaction was to grab his hair. Almighty Qin, young Master Qin. Why did he hit him? Why did he hit him in such an occasion? How many reporters were watching? And those who couldn't wait to dig up some dirt on him. Why did he hit him? The media and Qin Mo didn't even turn back, his voice low. Then let them come at me. Let them come at me? Feng Yi was shocked. Was he trying to protect Little Spade's secret, so he didn't hesitate to make himself look bad? Feng Yi's thoughts were a mess. Just now when he heard the news, he was so shocked he almost swallowed his fist. Little Spade was a girl. A girl. So young Master Qin wasn't gay? Or normal? No, this wasn't the time to think about this. Feng Yi took a deep breath, turning immediately. It wasn't that he didn't want to know the follow-up, but he wanted to stop the media. Brother. Feng Yi reached out, placing his hand on the shoulders of the two field control officers. Let's talk? After saying this, his heart wasn't calm, because he knew that the impact of this matter couldn't be reversed. Little Spade was a girl. Once the media found out, it would be uncontrollable. Little Spade might be stripped of his status as a member. That person was clear that he was going for a life-and-death struggle. He knew that with Qin Mo around, he wouldn't be able to do much. Besides, Miss Wu had told him not to start from Feng Yi's side since he was too good at public relations. He had to start from the fans' side. If those who liked Spade Z retaliated, it would cause real harm. Spade Z could guarantee everyone's loyalty, but no one could. Whether it was black or white, it was just a matter of a person's thoughts. He could still remember how he had managed to convince some of the fans in the group chat. In for a penny, in for a pound, in for a pound, in for a pound. He shouted at the other fans. Look, these are the people I like, and you guys. They are just like this. A woman dressed as a man and one beat people up because his family is powerful. I bought a ticket to enter, and I am also a Supreme Alliance fan. Aren't you afraid of disappointing us fans by treating me like this? If that was the case, it would be too shameless. Feng Yi hadn't gone far. When he heard that, he was afraid that Almighty Qin would cripple him. After all, Feng Yi knew that Qin Mo had intended to sacrifice his image to protect Little Spade's secret from the moment he had kicked him. How could Bo Jiu not see what Feng Yi could see? She had always been black. But the Almighty was different. That person, standing in the brightest place, reached out to her. She had told herself that in this world there was such a person. Regardless of the time, he would not allow anyone to splash dirty water on him for any purpose. Hence, how could she drag him into this just because of herself? This time, the youngster moved faster than Qin Mo. She used her arm to block his hand. Bo Jiu knelt down. When she lowered her head, the silver hair on the side of her forehead fell diagonally, adding a layer to her face. Even the organizer couldn't understand why the youngster had blocked Qin Mo's punch. The onlookers couldn't understand either. But at this moment the youngster smiled, the corners of her lips lifting slightly. Her fingers wrapped around Qin Mo's fist inch by inch, looking completely carefree and handsome. Brother Mo, hitting such a person will only dirty your hands, such a person. With that, the youngster paused. Following that, he grabbed the man's wrist with his other hand and tightened his fingers. His eyes were cold and stern. I'll handle it. That person was good at complaining. Handle it? If you have the ability, tell your fans what exactly your identity is. Are they not allowed to talk about you? What the hell? I want to see how you're going to. Before he could finish his sentence, there was a loud crack. That was the sound of his wrist being broken. Pain. It was so painful that he wanted to scream. But the youngster didn't give him the chance. Her fingers moved along his wrist, grabbing onto his throat. Sir, you really don't understand me. I've never been a good person. As for what you said just now, aren't you afraid that my fans will be disappointed? Heh, what kind of fan are you? A person like you, what right do you have to touch his hands? I can't bear to carry him away. How can a dirty thing like you touch him? That was the only thing in Bo Jio's eyes. She lowered her voice and said, I'll give you 1 second. Stand up and get out of my sight. If you don't, I'll crush your other wrist. That person crawled up after she released her grip. Scared witless, he crawled up and covered his arm with his fingers, as if there was a demon behind him. But he wouldn't leave. On the other side of the safe passage were the special forces that Qin Mo had planted. But the outcome wasn't important anymore. What was important were the few fans and the security. Spade Z was actually a girl. To them, this was more impactful than anything else. Feng Yi knew that even if he told the media that the commotion was caused by Almighty Qin hitting someone, it wouldn't be a complete secret. Little Spade's actions meant that she had admitted to it. In fact, at this moment, why was she so stupid? If she hadn't taken action and ignored him, there would have been a chance to explain. But he couldn't. Because the bright-eyed youngster in front of him was smarter than anyone else. She would know what to do and there would still be a chance to explain. But, for Qin Mo, she didn't even leave a chance to explain, cutting off her own path of retreat and protecting that person's reputation. Because when the media talked about this again, they wouldn't say that Almighty Qin had hit someone. They would only say that Spade Z had broken the fan's hand after being discovered as a girl. Chapter 802. Feng Yi had been a manager for so many years. He had seen too many things in the industry. Those who weren't popular wanted to use the popular ones to climb up. Everything was for the sake of benefits. At that time, he had felt that this industry was boring. Until the Supreme Alliance was formed, until he saw these two people. Feng Yi wanted to ask the Almighty, were you sure Little Spade didn't like you at all? They had already reached this stage. If it wasn't called liking, what was it called? He had seen wrongly. In the past, he had always felt that the Almighty had contributed more. In reality, both of them had contributed more to each other. But, this matter. Feng Yi took a deep breath. Supreme Alliance had never cared about public opinion. It was because esports relied on skills and nothing else. For those who truly liked esports, as long as their idol's charisma was still there and his skills were still amazing, no one would care if the ID was a man or a woman. As long as the ID was the person behind it and he didn't fake his skills, nothing would be a problem. But the most important thing now was Little Spade's popularity. She was the rookie king right from the start and had a ridiculously handsome face. It was undeniable that there were some who liked Little Spade not because of her skills, but because of her face. He was afraid that the fans would think that Little Spade had lied to them. After all, Little Spade had always been a girl disguised as a man. But there was one point. To the competition management team, it didn't matter if you were male or female. As long as your ID was the original and there were no fake operations, and some private information about your personal life, if the fans didn't mind, the competition management team wouldn't use this as an excuse to kick you out. After all, what mattered here was the game's operating skills. Hence, they still had to worry about the backlash from the fans. Thinking of this, Feng Yi subconsciously glanced sideways at the few people present. At this moment the youngster stood up. She was still the same as before, dressed in a battle uniform that fluttered in the wind. She didn't look like a girl at all. Bo Jio walked towards them and glanced up at the big screen that was less than 100 meters away from the safety exit. There was already a countdown of the last 10 minutes. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something. One of the fans suddenly said, "I don't care." Bo Jio paused. Chapter 803. It wasn't just that one fan. Even though the others didn't say anything, their gazes were the same. They were firm, gentle, and unbreakable. That kind of feeling was like the pressure of all the dreams on one person. Since when had the youngster in front of them become their idol? Instead, he had become a stubborn hope. The screen started to count down to 5 minutes. The image changed. It was like a kaleidoscope, flying past quickly and finally stopping at the center of the esports arena. The shoutcaster started to take his position, fiddling with the microphone and testing the audio. The youngster didn't move. Sister Turtle stood out from the group of fans, completely behaving like a domineering elder sister. Rather than feeling sorry, why don't you fight properly in the arena? We want a vigorous national league without any schemes. Don't tell me you can't do it? Bo Jio broke into a smile, stuffing her hands into the pockets of her uniform. She smiled devilishly. You're trying to goad me into action. Are you going to fall for it? Sister Turtle looked at her as though she was looking at a family member. Or rather, it was as though she was looking at her past self. She didn't want this person to be destroyed. That was probably how she felt. Bo Jio retracted her gaze. She felt that it was different. In the past, there had never been such a moment in her life. No matter what she faced, there had never been anyone who stood behind her and told her how to fight or fight. It was her own business to touch, crawl and roll around. She stood there, even if there was a group of enemies in front of her. She had to solve it. Just like what her father had said. She was Z, the young lord who protected the entire hacker lineage. If she couldn't win against others, others would devour her. But now, Bo Jio glanced up, looking at the gaze that was directed at her. She finally understood why the Almighty loved playing esports so much. Because there was never a single person fighting here. I'll accept your goading. Bo Jio retracted her steps and turned, her uniform fluttering in the wind. She heard the youngster say, "Don't worry, I'll beat them until they call me daddy." The fans. They must have been fans of a fake Spade. Beat them until they call me daddy. How could he say something like that? She watched as the young man walked to Almighty Qin's side. There wasn't a trace of panic on her face, and she didn't seem to want to explain anything. Only her eyes were as dim as the night. Almighty Qin was even more straightforward than them. He was shocked and didn't waste any time. He just said one word, "Let's go." With the Almighty's temper, he really wouldn't say much about this kind of thing. Bo Jio heaved a sigh of relief. But when the smile on his face just appeared, Qin Mo's voice floated over, his tone casual. "Let's have a good talk after the competition, young lady." "Young girl?" Bo Jio choked. The Almighty was going to settle the score with her after the competition. She had thought that he would be very angry. At the very least, he should sever all ties with her. But it seemed like the Almighty didn't mean it that way. But if he said he wasn't angry... Bo Jio tilted her head and glanced at his chiseled face. It didn't look like it. It could only be said that the great god's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea. When she was young, she realized that her pet's thoughts were especially hard to guess. At the entrance of the arena, the entire Supreme Alliance team was waiting. The screen was already counting down to the last minute. The finals were different from the regional competition. Once the time reached 0. Chapter 804. Yin Wuyao still had a cigarette in his mouth. But at this moment, his expression wasn't as lazy as before. Instead, he narrowed his eyes, his face solemn. Or rather, every Supreme Alliance member standing there was looking at the time on the screen. Coco and Feng Shang were the ones who couldn't keep their composure. But even so, they didn't move, just standing there. 27. 26. 25. 2. The number 24 flashed by. At the audience seats, two slender figures suddenly supported themselves with one hand and fell from the high platform just like that. When they landed, their uniform flew up with a swoosh. Countless screams came from the audience. The fans couldn't understand how their idol had leaped past them. Ah! There was an indescribable excitement. Qin Mo didn't turn back. But no matter what the situation was, it couldn't hide his tall and straight figure and the aura he exuded. His black hair was still moving because of the inertia from jumping down from a high place. And beside him, the youngster had a head of silver hair, the tear mole at the corner of her eye slightly raised, her lips curved into a sweet smile. The two of them had officially returned to the team. In such a unique way. Almost everyone saw the eye-catching jump. There was another reason for the fans' screams. This was a height of 3 meters, which was equivalent to the height of a one-story house. He jumped down just like that, and his landing posture was so beautiful. It was so handsome that it could make people's faces bleed. On the screen, the countdown hadn't ended yet. And all the Supreme Alliance members had successfully reunited. Qin Mo turned, standing in front of all the members, his slender and strong back like an ancient bow full of tension. His voice was calm and deep. "Let's go." These 3 words opened up the entire impactful scene. With the appearance of the Zero, all the team members walked out. Some of them had smiles on their faces, some were fiddling with their wrists, and some were raising their eyes. The All-Star team. They were the center of attention. Their hearts were beating. Countless cries of support rang in their ears. Supreme Alliance, victory. Feng Yi stood on the stage, watching this scene. His phone didn't stop. He had to handle the follow-up work. The organizer had already been taken away by the special forces. Those fake fans who had been taken out of the arena were the biggest problem. As expected, Feng Yi hadn't even reached his position when he heard those people still raging. The source of their anger was that they felt wronged. How could they be treated like this? Feng Yi knew that he couldn't talk things out with these people. A bunch of brainwashed people. Usually, no matter what you say, they will think that they are being bullied. I used to be a Supreme Alliance fan, but now I'm turning anti-fan. Isn't this how you treat your true fans? Aren't you afraid of getting killed? Feng Yi was thoroughly enraged. Die. It's fine if you use the name of a true fan to commit crimes, but you still want to hang me up? Did he really think that he, the agent, was dead? I didn't expect everyone to hold such a huge grudge against Supreme Alliance. Feng Yi walked over. Since that's the case, go ahead and spread whatever you want. Supreme Alliance has been hung up since young. This isn't a big deal. Little Zhang, call Lawyer Li and tell him that there are more than a dozen parents here that he needs to visit. These people's infringement of Little Spade's copyright hasn't been settled yet. No matter what, Little Spade is the FC King of Supreme Alliance. Estimate the price. Ask each family for a little less, maybe 80,000 or 100,000. Those who know they're in the wrong can talk, but those who don't, fight the lawsuit to the end. Don't care if they're students or not, just ask their parents how they raised their children. Those people didn't listen to Feng Yi, looking nonchalant as they continued to shout. They wanted everyone to scold Supreme Alliance and Spade Z. To them. Feng Yi didn't even bother. It was obvious that they weren't successful in hurting him. They wanted to use public opinion to smear his name. Unfortunately, he wasn't going to give them the chance. He called the bodyguards over and sent them away. They had to leave even if they didn't want to. After that, the security staff was still puzzled. Boss Feng's methods aren't the same as usual. It wasn't just different. He didn't give them any face. Feng Yi walked over, passing each of them a cigarette. He didn't care about anything else for now. Today's competition. He had to let those youngsters continue to fight without any distractions. Because this time, Supreme Alliance's opponent wasn't easy to deal with. Grand Realm, 5th in last year's National League, had dominated the regional competition and entered this year's finals. He knew that when the variety show had been looking for people, they had also looked for their members. But they hadn't agreed to attend. This meant that it was a professional team with top-notch tactics. Supreme Alliance was up against such a team the moment they entered. He wasn't sure if they could handle it. But on further thought, this was the finals of the National League. Which team that could enter the finals was simple. In the arena, the cheers continued. Everyone seemed to have a passion that could lift the roof. The shoutcaster sitting in front of the live stream started his commentary. The live stream platform was fully online. The competition format was the same, with a total of 3 rounds. The last round was a 5v5 team battle. Just like other esports competitions, each character only had 3 chances to revive. Now let's see who will be fighting in the 1v1. The moment the shoutcaster finished his sentence, there was a loud swoosh. A row of words appeared on the screen, representing the members sent by Supreme Alliance and Grand Realm. Hey Wang Su, the Spade Z you wanted to PK didn't come for the 1v1. It seems like he didn't see the challenge you sent him. It was the vice-captain of Grand Realm, Yan Yixiao. His left hand was placed on the back of the chair, the corners of his lips lifted. Wang Su lifted his lids, placing the towel in his hands to the side, his eyes dark and heavy. Oh, our golden newcomer is going to be angry. Yan Yixiao reached out and patted his shoulder. Go on, go for the first round. Let Supreme Alliance have a good look. Neglecting you will be their biggest mistake. Wang Su stood up. He was a man of few words and didn't have outstanding looks. His appearance didn't garner much cheers from the fans. This was Jiang City, not Grand Realm's home ground. More importantly, Wang Su was a new face. Who is that? Someone in the audience even asked such a question. Not many could answer. Supreme Alliance's representative was Yin Wuyao, the north of Yin Wuyao. The two of them walked over to their computers, putting on their headphones. Then they clicked on the mouse and entered the game. The game's music started playing. Even the shoutcaster's hair stood on end. This was the start of the finals. It seems like Yin Wuyao is going for a safe and steady battle. He has chosen a long-range attack character with high output and high attack power. Apart from assassins, it's a safe choice. The opponent has chosen a long-range attack as well, so it's time to see which side has the better long-range attack. As the commentator spoke, he asked his partner next to him, as usual, who do you think will win this match? Of course it's Yin Wuyao. The scale of the competition isn't just a test of the player's skills, but also their mental fortitude. Yin Wuyao's mental fortitude is definitely better than a newbie's. Are you saying that apart from skills, mental fortitude is also important? Of course. But based on what I know, the newbie from Grand Realm isn't simple. I heard he's good at holding his ground. I've heard of that, but according to the information, he's an assassin. Why did he choose a long-range shooter? Could he have been influenced by Yin Wuyao? Before the shoutcaster could finish his sentence, the two players were already facing each other. As players, it was only a matter of time before they clashed. But Yin Wuyao could clearly feel the unfriendly aura of the newcomer. Grand Realm's Yan Yixiao listened to the explanation and looked at the screen, the corners of his lips curling up. Was he influenced by North of Yin Mountain? It seems like they have underestimated Wang Su. In the esports industry, Spade Z isn't the only all-rounder. Grand Realm has one as well. Moreover, when he plays as an archer, his maneuvering and positioning are fatal to his enemies, especially in a 1v1 situation. Yin Wuyao, who sat in front of the computer, frowned. Even his lips seemed to have changed. He had dodged all of his opponent's big moves, but his HP had dropped. But his opponent wasn't injured at all. Yin Wuyao narrowed his eyes. He controlled his character to retreat, successfully dodging another attack. His technique was very fast, and it seemed to be perfectly executed. Perhaps, the spectators couldn't tell. But only Yin Wuyao himself knew that he was being suppressed and could not even get out of the defense tower. Bo Jiao sat beside Qin Mo, watching Yin Wuyao's operation. Her hand that was taking a sip of water paused. Then she frowned. If Bo Jiao could see it, it was impossible for Qin Mo not to. Yin Wuyao wasn't leaving either. Lin Feng finally reacted, pushing Yun Hu. Hey, what's going on? Am I overthinking? Why do I feel as though Uncle Yin hasn't left the tower since the start? You aren't overthinking. Yun Hu's eyes dimmed. He's a ruthless fellow. Ruthless fellow? Lin Feng turned to look at Yin Wuyao once again. That was when he realized that the usually carefree person was frowning and his hands were tightly knitted. Yan Yixiao lifted his lips. Based on Wang Su's style, it should be about time. No one would be able to understand what he meant just by listening to his words. But right at this moment, the screen changed. Wang Su, who had been attacking from afar, leaped from the bushes, heading straight for Yin Wuyao. Silver sparks flew. Chapter 805. The First Drop of Blood. The first kill since the start of the competition. When the music started playing, there would be a technician who would replay the scene in slow motion. It was a cool scene. But this first kill belonged to the opponent. North of Yin Wuyao's ID fell. Everyone was in a different mood. Some were cheering while others were disappointed. Supreme Alliance's fans looked at the screen. Their waving banners paused. As for the fans that had always liked Uncle Ian, their expressions were blank. Supreme Alliance is in danger, the shoutcaster commented. The shoutcaster spoke up. This newcomer from Grand Realm isn't simple. Whether it's hand speed or positioning, he's better than Yin Wuyao. Lin Feng couldn't help punching the chair beside him. Feng Shang's eyes were filled with worry. Uncle Ian hadn't been in such a state since he returned to the competition. It was obvious that he wasn't a newcomer. The first kill in the national finals was very meaningful to every team. If they won the 1v1 PK, they wouldn't feel as pressured in the following matches. But if they lost, it wasn't just the others. Yin Wuyao, who was competing in the arena, had the same thought, and this thought, after he was revived, became clearer, as if it was reminding him. It was easy to see the state of the competition. This was especially true for some experienced commentators. North of Yin Wuyao's speed has changed. You're saying he's slowed down, right? That's right. That's dangerous. Hero is a game that tests hand speed and positioning. Once he hesitates, not only will he not be able to kill his opponent, he might even be killed instead. It seems like the death just now has given North of Yin Wuyao a lot of mental pressure. That's probably how people who have played on the battlefield for too long think. Why is it that once a professional team member reaches a certain age, whether it's from his overall battle state or from his mentality, they'll switch him out? It's because he's long since lost his drive. Is that what you mean? The key now is to see if North of Yin Wuyao can break free from the mental pressure. If he can't, it will be a one-man game. The two shoutcasters made sense because it was on the screen. Wang Su's in-game character charged over again. His damage hadn't decreased at all. Yin Wuyao was suppressed to the point that he didn't leave the tower at all. In less than 3 minutes, the defense tower was blasted into smithereens by a long-range artillery shell from Wang Su. Yin Wuyao controlled his character to take a step back. Bo Jiu frowned. Lin Feng didn't understand why Little Spade was frowning. On the other side, Wang Su increased his speed and ran from the right side, directly using a skill to aim at North of Yin Mountain's back. It was very fast. Ordinary people could only see the silver sparks created by the game character on the screen. They couldn't see how he moved at all. By the time people realized what was happening, he only saw Yin Mountain's figure fall for the second time on the screen. Wang Su ran back. At this time, his HP was also low. He had to return to the city. However, on the way back to the city, Wang Su, who was wearing earphones, flicked his finger. According to the situation just now, he should have been able to kill his opponent instantly. He didn't expect that North of Yin Mountain would still have a trick up his sleeve. However, even if his skills were good, it was useless. Chapter 806. The second time. This was the second time North of Yin Wuyao had fallen. And the third time, regardless of whether Cheng was still around. Grand Realm would be declared the winner of this match. The fans' emotions were unfathomable. The shoutcaster shook his head. I never expected this match to turn into a rookie show for Grand Realm. It seems like Supreme Alliance is still lacking in certain aspects. That's normal. The shoutcaster analyzed everything. Even though Supreme Alliance has many pros, they all have a problem. For example, North of Yin Mountain. You and I both know that age has a definite effect on the speed of the opponent. This is only the first match for Supreme Alliance and there are still 2 more matches to go. This time, Supreme Alliance has recruited 4 main players. Other than Spade Z and North of Yin Mountain, the other 2 are completely new rookies. In a 5v5, it won't be easy for them. If this continues, I'm afraid they will lose the second match and won't even have the chance to enter the team battle. North of Yin Wuyao has revived. This time, he should be able to defend for a longer period of time. The Supreme Alliance members sitting outside the arena must be in a bad mood. The live stream had to showcase their condition. With the shoutcaster's words, the camera shifted, aiming at Qin Mo's position. Unexpectedly, there wasn't much emotion on that elegant and handsome face. His long fingers pressed onto the Bluetooth earpiece on his left side. The shoutcaster was shocked. Is Qin Mo planning to use the call now? Every captain had a chance to speak to a member. This was an adjustment made in the past 2 years. But everyone knew the importance of this call. The other shoutcaster was confused. If I were Qin Mo, I wouldn't use the call here. There is a 2v2 coming up. Compared to the 1v1 that can't be salvaged, it would be more meaningful to use it in the 2v2. That is indeed the case, but he did press the earpiece. Since that is the case, pass the microphone to the stage control. Let's hear what Qin Mo has to say. The game sound was muffled. Then Qin Mo's voice came through the Bluetooth earpiece. Not only did it reach the audience's ears, it also reached Yin Wuyao's ears. Hand speed has nothing to do with age. Since you've decided to come back, why not prove it? That was it? The commentator paused. They had purposely set aside some time to listen to how Qin Mo would guide Yin Wuyao. But now this was all he said? However, the young man sitting on the bench felt that this sentence was enough. Bo Jiu smiled faintly when she heard that. Yin Wuyao, who was wearing headphones, felt a chill run down his spine. Then, he lifted his eyes and looked at the screen in front of him. The memories of the past spread from his mind to his limbs. The night he was expelled from the club. He lay on the bed and smoked. He didn't want to go anywhere. He had also told himself that he should just forget about it. He was indeed at that age. But he couldn't persuade himself. He wanted to fight again. I really can't accept that I didn't get the championship. For a professional player, not having a match to play in was more painful than anything. It's not that I haven't thought about going to other clubs. But everyone had the same idea. Chapter 807. Some of his professional friends started to distance themselves from him. Those who were close to him started to persuade him to give in. At the very least, he could still be a coach in some club. At that time, he had stood at the entrance, cigarette butts all over the floor. In the end, his fingers were numb from the cold. Someone was still laughing. Hey! Isn't this Peking University? What are you here for? Are you here to play games? Don't tell me he's here to guide us? Who was the one who said that we shouldn't play the game the way we play? The focus should be on our skills. In the end, we still have to do some other messy things. Great, now the person who said those words wants to guide us. I think we should just take on the role of assistant as well. In this world, you wouldn't feel disgusted when you were wronged. Instead, people who didn't deserve to be human were humiliating what you loved the most. Yin Wuyao couldn't stand the disgust. If this was what he loved, he would rather quit. Indeed, he had never imagined that he would be standing here. Day after day, year after year, when he thought that his passion for esports had been buried, he suddenly felt a sense of loss. That youngster had appeared. And he had finally reached this place. How could he give up so easily? Yin Wuyao's left hand was on the keyboard, his right hand moving the mouse. The game didn't seem to have changed. The shoutcaster didn't think there was anything to see. It seems like Qin Mo has really wasted a chance to speak. North of Yin Wuyao's strategy hasn't changed. If this continues, his HP will be depleted and he will be hit in one move. The moment he finished speaking, Wang Su's first skill was to deal damage and the second was to push forward. Yin Wuyao's HP was low. He wanted to take another kill. It's over. North of Yin Wuyao is going to die. It wasn't just the shoutcaster's first reaction, it was everyone's. Those who had been with Yin Wuyao from the start couldn't bear to watch the last scene. Some even closed their eyes. However, the next second, Wang Su's expression changed. The enemy in front of him had disappeared. How could a person disappear for no reason? He wasn't an assassin. The only explanation was that it wasn't that the other party had disappeared, but that there was a blind spot in his vision. Not everyone could do that. Only people who played online games all year round would play like this. If he dove into the bushes to avoid the other party's skill attacks and then turned around, he would be able to create a certain degree of visual concealment. Everything happened too fast. It was so fast that Wang Su wanted to aim the cannon at the bushes. North of Yin Mountain turned his head and used a stun shot. Then, he spun around and fired in a circle. Not only did he avoid Wang Su's last bullet, he also raised his bow at the last step, K. O. This kind of operation speed was too fast. The audience only knew that someone had died when they heard the sound effect. But who would fall would only be known in the next second. The fans really thought that it was Wuxia who had fallen. Even his hands drooped down. But in the next second, they realized that the person was still there. All it did was jump out from the bushes. The fans with their eyes open let out a wave of screams. When the fans opened their eyes, they were dumbfounded. Looking at the display on the screen, they pulled their friends over and asked, "What happened? What happened just now? My Peking University is not dead? Ha 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 ha. Peking University didn't die." Although the friend's eyes were open, he didn't see anything clearly. He rubbed himself. "Let me organize it. I don't know why he was the last one to die." Besides the professional players who participated in the National League, no one else could see what had happened. Even Feng Xiang, a prospective player, could only see 80% of it. "Uncle, how did he do it? How did he counterattack?" Lin Feng turned his head and thought for a moment. "Let me organize my words. Feng Xiang. So you don't know either, right?" Coco hugged the rabbit and lectured Feng Xiang. "Just cheer now, it's too tiring for you to speak." Feng Xiang said, I just want to know the reason." Why wasn't the shoutcaster giving him an explanation? Visual blind spot. Bo Jiao supported the side of her face with one hand. Her sitting posture was indeed different from the other members. It was too lazy, her elbows resting on her legs as she leaned forward. There weren't many people like her, but her eyes were filled with malice because of the black ring on her index finger. There's a type of maneuver, as long as you make use of the bushes, you will be able to create a visual blind spot against a long-range attacker. You can dodge the opponent's attack before continuing. That way, you will have a higher chance of winning. It tests the player's control and maneuver. A newbie wouldn't be able to do it, but Uncle would be able to. He's experienced and would definitely have a move that we don't know. Lin Feng pointed at the youngster. That's what I meant. It wasn't as if Grand Realms members couldn't hear their conversation. They wanted to ask Spade Z. Now, did he include himself when he said, "a move that we don't know"? Obviously not, otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to analyze it so clearly. Yan Yixiao's eyes dimmed as he watched the massacre on the screen. He could sense that the revived Wang Su was starting to get serious. He had never been so serious before. It could be seen from the moment he moved the mouse. But even so, Wuxia didn't let down his aura. The two of them clashed once more, each attacking with a flick. The silver sparks formed from the collision seemed to take up the entire screen. It wasn't just one person's move. It was two people, each of them quick and direct, using the most direct method to whittle down the other's HP. They retreated at the fastest speed, then counterattacked and moved again. Every movement was executed perfectly. The clicking of the mouse and the rhythmic clicking sound filled the entire arena. It filled the entire arena. On the screen, every time the two characters clashed, there would be a special effect. The silver sparks were dazzling. Their moves and maneuvers were beautiful and direct. It was rare to see them. From that moment on, the fans from both sides only had one word in mind: evenly matched. The battle lasted for a full 7 minutes. 7 minutes brought unparalleled visual enjoyment to everyone. After all, it was a battle between experts. It was exhilarating to watch. At the same time, everyone's hearts tightened. They were afraid North of Wuxia would die. However, at this moment, he spun a wheel and turned around. Swoosh! Wang Su retreated a step too slow. His speed was reduced and he was shot again, losing his second life. Chapter 808. It wasn't just the audience, even the two shoutcasters in the middle had a slight change in expression. For an ordinary player, after dying twice, his willpower had basically been destroyed, and it would definitely become a one-man show for the other party. But North of Mountain was actually able to tie the score under such heavy pressure? The shock in the shoutcasters' eyes was real. It had been too many years since they had seen such a match. It could be said that with the increasing benefits, the shoutcasters were in awe. Even a professional player would have to consider many things. Not to mention, after being killed twice, he was able to counterattack. Such a match that didn't care about retreat was something that could only be seen during the early days of esports. The shoutcasters were aware of Wu Yao's ability to play such a match. Firstly, it was because of his personal experience. Secondly, it was because he had the backing of Supreme Alliance. It wasn't any other team, it was Supreme Alliance. However, no one felt it as deeply as Wuxia. He was the opponent, and he even asked himself if he was the one who had been killed twice. Would he still be like north of Mountain, unafraid of the road ahead? It seemed so difficult. In the past, Wuxia had felt that Spade Z had underestimated him because he hadn't fought against him. But now it was a different feeling. That was because his opponent was someone worthy of his respect and battle against. Wuxia looked up and glanced at the big screen. When he revived, he clasped his right hand and dashed out of the city center. His eyes were burning with flames. Yan Yixiao was well aware of the state his teammates were in. He was so focused that he didn't even react when his teammates called out his name. A shoutcaster was needed at this moment. The tempo of the match is changing. That's right. Right now, it's unknown who will win or lose. I have a feeling that this is going to be a very long battle. On the screen, the two of them started clashing again. Everyone's retreat, advance, and attacks were meticulous. In the National League, it wasn't like normal players, where the attacks were focused on the top, middle, and bottom lanes. The experts would choose to fight in the wilderness, because the wilderness terrain was more conducive to skillful maneuvering. As a spectator, Hoshino was also watching the match. When her gaze landed on the young man, she turned away. He was also holding a cup of coffee in his hand. Sometimes this kind of thing was a good prop. But after watching such a match, he roughly understood why Z said that everything would have to wait until the end of the match before deciding anything. This was a match worth looking forward to. Whether it was Supreme Alliance or Grand Realm, they could only see esports skills here. Wuxia's HP is dropping. The commentator couldn't hide his excitement. Could it be that the rhythm of this match is going to be led by north of Mountain? Everyone has already died twice. No matter who dies again, this match will be over. But looking at the current situation, it's The commentator had not finished his sentence. On the screen, Wuxia's character was like an arrow that had been pulled back from a bow. With a rebound, the cannon fell and north of Mountain's health dropped to critical. Then, he moved his finger forward. A loud bang resounded. The two of them unleashed their ultimate skills at almost the same time. The game's sound effects rang in his ears. The screen was filled with fireworks. Who was the one that died? That was the question on everyone's mind. The dazzling maneuvers brought about a flash of white on the screen. Until the screen changed, breaking down the movements. The audience finally saw Wuxia, who was covered in blood, standing by the bushes. The system made the decision automatically. In less than a second, Supreme Alliance's screen dimmed. Following the shattering of the crystal, the word failure floated up, cold and glaring. He lost. The fans' fingers fell, their eyes glued to the screen for a long time. It was just that this match was indeed different from the rest. It was rare for fans of the opposing team to clap for the opposing team. The fans of Grand Realm exclaimed, "North of Mountain is so handsome." A wave of applause erupted. It wasn't just for Wuxia, it was also for Mountain, who had allowed them to witness such an exciting match. In that moment, nothing else could be heard other than the applause. Wu Yao glanced up, removing his earpiece, his black hair brushing past his eyes. No one wanted to lose. Neither did he. Just a little bit, yes, just a little bit. Wuxia didn't stand up. Yan Yixiao frowned. The camera started to move towards Wuxia, and only then did they realize that his hand that was holding the phone was a little stiff. Everyone saw the scene. The shoutcaster couldn't help but ask, "Muscle retardation?" "I think so." As expected of north of the Mountain. During the fight, he was able to incite his opponent to execute the same killing move. If this match continues, perhaps the loser will. The commentator didn't finish the name, but everyone understood at this point. Even Wuxia himself was very clear about it. The shock in his eyes began to gradually recover. Then, he swung his right hand, stood up, and walked in front of north of Mountain. His eyes were deep. I hope there will be a chance for you to compete with me again in the future. Yin Wuyao arched a brow. He wanted to smoke, but he was stopped by someone who wasn't his teammate. There was no reply. Wang Su frowned, trying to think of an excuse. I like you a lot, Yin Wuyao. No, Yin Wuyao's reaction wasn't important at this moment. What was important was that the spectators were dumbfounded. The shoutcaster didn't know how to continue the conversation. Lin Feng exclaimed in shock. F***CK. Bo Jiao paused in the middle of unwrapping her lollipop. To make sure she hadn't heard wrongly, she grabbed the Almighty's hand and rubbed her ears. Feng Shang was even more direct. He wasn't stuttering. F***CK. What's this, confessing to uncle? Yin Wuyao was the one being confessed to. He wanted to turn back and shout, Uncle is a straight man. Wait a minute. Calm down. How could he be calculative with a kid? Besides, the kid had beaten him. Yin Wuyao sucked in a deep breath and was about to speak. Just then Wang Su spoke again. I said I like your technique. Lin Feng immediately became impure. The gloominess from losing the match swept away. He was unrestrained. Hey, what technique? What do you think? Yun Hu pressed his hand on the restless person's thigh. Lin Feng stilled, immediately keeping his voice down. He was about to touch his brother's wrist. F***CK. He was touching his thigh in front of everyone. He really didn't have any guts. Uncle lost, it's up to us now, 2v2. Yun Hu turned, lowering his voice beside Lin Feng's ear. Do you think I'll still be in the mood to compete if you pry my hand off now? Lin Feng glared at Yun Hu, the word go to hell, rolling around his throat. But it was obvious he couldn't say it now. Why are you so impulsive now? Aren't you in the mood to compete? Why did he keep using this move to threaten him? F***CK. Yun Hu replied calmly, I'm afraid of being rejected, I have a fragile heart. Lin Feng. He really couldn't communicate. F***CK. He was too shameless. The match was over. Wang Su wasn't done. His chiseled face was still looking at Yin Wuyao. What do I have to do for you to agree? To show my sincerity, after this competition, I can join your team. That way we can all train together. Yin Wuyao. No, what was going on? Was he going to leave with him? Yan Yixiao knew his teammate well. He charged forward, not caring if he would embarrass himself, pulling Wang Su back with all his might. Yin Wuyao didn't know how to express his emotions after losing the match. After all, the other party was looking at him with a hint of reluctance. He had to return to the team no matter what. The shoutcaster was dumbfounded, his words extremely awkward. He, our contestant Wang Su is really passionate. This should be his pursuit of esports. The northern fans weren't listening. They felt that Wang Su was interested in their uncle. That gaze, it was really hard to explain. Yin Wuyao's scalp stiffened under that gaze. Especially when he walked over to his teammate, wanting to bear the consequences of losing the match. The youngster smiled brightly at him. Not bad, Uncle went out for a match and managed to recruit someone who wants to marry into his family. Marry into his family. Yin Wuyao didn't know what expression to put on, who exactly taught his vice-captain Mandarin. Don't use adjectives if you don't know how to use them. Wang Su is not bad, our team is lacking someone like him. Lin Feng said, his claws already reaching out. Brother Yao, why don't you sacrifice your body? Yin Wuyao raised his head and sighed, not wanting to speak. He wanted to smoke a cigarette to calm himself down. However, his heart was indeed soft. He still remembered the last match he had played in his previous team. It was a team battle. Due to the needs of the team, he had to give up his best long-range attack to operate a tank. During the battle, his teammates would run back the moment they saw his HP drop. They couldn't fight at all. They had lost that match badly. Those who played the game knew that it was because their damage output couldn't keep up. But the club didn't seem to think that way. They had long prepared to kick him out of the team. That time, they had found an excuse, saying that his maneuvering had dragged down the standards of the entire team, forcing him to leave the club. Yin Wuyao couldn't remember how he had felt then. In this world, it wasn't a big deal for people who hated you to trample on you. The most disappointing thing was when those who said they would conquer the world together abandoned you. Yin Wuyao glanced up, watching the youngsters who were teasing him. The captain in the middle raised his hand, tossing him a cigarette with an indifferent expression. He felt that joining the Supreme Alliance and having such a group of brothers was the luckiest thing that had happened to him in his life. This situation was also seen by the audience. The more extraordinary the solemnity, the more they felt that it was a match worth anticipating. The music for the 2v2 started. Lin Feng retracted his hand, his lips curling up. "Let's go, we're going to take revenge for Brother Yao." When Yunhu heard this, he stood up as well. His tall figure and his face appeared on the big screen, causing a wave of cheers. Especially when Lin Feng and Yunhu went up together. They were in the same uniform but had different styles. One of them had his sleeves rolled up while the other had one hand in his pocket. Not only were they handsome, but when Lin Feng tilted his head towards Yunhu, there was a rush of pink. In the words of the fans, it was a perfect match. The shoutcaster moved the microphone over. "The second match is about to begin, but I'm sure the audience can see the current situation. Supreme Alliance has lost, which means that the 2v2 is the crux of the competition. If Lin Feng and Yunhu don't win, the competition will end. Let's wait and see what the outcome will be." The opposing team has entered. The other shoutcaster shifted his gaze. It's the golden duo of Grand Realm. It seems like this match is going to be crucial. Which team do you think has a higher chance of winning? Brother, it's hard to say, they are evenly matched. But there is something that I think can be discussed. If Supreme Alliance sends Lin Feng and Yunhu out, there will definitely be two newbies in the team battle. That way, even if Supreme Alliance wins, it won't be easy for them to win the 5v5. More importantly, the loss in the first match will definitely put pressure on the Feng-Yun duo. I think we should listen to the players' thoughts. Lin Feng. Lin Feng put on his earpiece, pressing it with one hand. You have a future. This is the Feng-Yun duo. They know to put my name first. That's right. I'm the attacker. The shoutcaster. That wasn't what they were asking. The fans replied in unison. That's right. Anyway, anyone who claimed to be the attacker was the one on the receiving end. The two shoutcasters felt that they would never be able to reach Supreme Alliance's point. Without further ado, they entered the game page. When the hot-blooded music started playing again, everyone's attention was focused. Bo Jiu watched as Lin Feng moved the mouse, her brows arched in amusement. Why does it seem like Senior Lin is on steroids today? Is he playing with his life? Steroids? Coco didn't understand. He doesn't seem any different from before. Hasn't he always been like this? Bo Jiu tapped her knees rhythmically. It's different this time. His typing speed is less than a second faster than usual. Other than Wang Su, who was still watching Yin Wuyao, the rest of the Grand Realm members turned towards the youngster. You were able to see the difference in less than a second, you pervert. Lin Feng was indeed faster than before. He had to be. Chapter 809. He was a straight man. How could he understand? He couldn't lose. It would be an insult to him if he lost. They could fight on the bed if they had the guts. He might not be the one at the bottom. The more Lin Feng thought about it, the more enraged he became. He lifted the cannon and charged forward. Just as Bo Jiu had said, his movements were much faster. Moreover, Lin Feng's character could jump, hence, his movements were smooth and fluid. Lin Feng moved. After collecting the troops, he jumped to the right, taking a boss in the wilderness before returning to kill the troops. His movements and speed had changed the moment the camera caught him. As mentioned previously, a battle between experts wouldn't take place on the main road. Instead, it would take place in the wilderness. The two members of Grand Realm glanced at each other. They circled around, prepared to attack Lin Feng. After all, Yunhu wasn't with him. The two of them skimmed across the grass swiftly, their long fingers moving left and right. They were both national-level players, their movements and maneuvering beautiful. In an ordinary game, any one of these almighties would be able to control the rhythm of the entire team. But this was the National League. None of them were weak. When Lin Feng switched his view, he saw the two figures charging towards him. He retreated into the bushes and aimed his cannon at one of the players with low HP. With a loud bang, He fired towards the person nearing him. The opponent used a big move, causing Lin Feng's HP to drop by half. But he didn't leave. Instead, he swayed to the left and jumped back, his fingers moving swiftly. The opponent wasn't having it easy either, frowning from the barrage of attacks. The live feed was fast with dazzling special effects. But even so, the shoutcasters were shocked. What's going on? Lin Feng's attack is so strong, they haven't even developed? Feng Shang was impressed. If he had been alone, he wouldn't have dared to take on the two of them. Hand speed, Bojiu said. Feng Shang was confused. Bojiu wasn't bothered. The Almighty was right beside her. She placed her fingertips on his wrist, her index finger tapping twice, gesturing for him to pay attention to Lin Feng's mouse movements. If Feng Shang hadn't seen it, he wouldn't have known. When he looked, he suddenly realized that the number of clicks seemed to have increased a lot. The difference between 1 strike and 3 strikes. This was the significance of hand speed. The higher the number of clicks, the higher the damage. Feng Shang finally understood. However, there was one thing he didn't tell his idol. When Almighty Qin saw his idol knock his wrist, his usually good-looking eyebrows raised, and there was an indescribable danger in his deep eyes. Speaking of which, idols were just like that. Of all the people he could have knocked on to demonstrate, he had to knock on Almighty Qin's wrist. This was no different from plucking the fur from a tiger's tail. Bojiu didn't notice. After all, other than the competition, she would glance towards a certain corner of the audience. Such a signal was to bide their time. Hoshino understood immediately. He picked up the coffee and put it to his lips, tapping his fingers on the cup. He knocked 5 times in a row. It wasn't very fast, but it was very rhythmic. This was a common body language used in the industry. It meant that after the competition, there would be 5 minutes. Chapter 8:10. Once the competition ended, she only had 5 minutes to leave. There were some matters that she had to settle. Bojiu had thought of many reasons to leave, but she hadn't expected it to be this, the backlash from the fans. Instead of letting the Almighty and Supreme Alliance bear the brunt of the blame, it would be better for her to end it. She would be the one to end the matters outside of the competition. Be it the crime squad's case, or the impure fans turning against her. Bojiu knew that they wouldn't let her go. Because she didn't fulfill their wishes. Because they didn't need to protect anything. They would only use their love as an excuse to take someone else's belongings. After being warned, they would throw a bucket of dirty water at them and still feel wronged. Even with Feng Yi around, there wouldn't be no trouble since no one would be able to stop their mouth from distorting the truth. They didn't care about the National League that gathered so many people. But Bojiu cared. The more she cared about something, the more she wanted to protect it even if she knew it would lead her to the abyss. The battle on the screen continued. It was 1 against 2. Lin Feng's hands were fast, but it wasn't enough. The other person rushed over. Lin Feng was obviously at a disadvantage. The fans bolted up, their fingers clenched tightly as they called out, "Almighty Lin!" If this continued, Lin Feng would definitely be killed. That was the first thought in everyone's mind. They wanted to tell Lin Feng to run. However, the fans and the members of Grand Realm had forgotten one thing. That was Yun Hu. Of course, Grand Realm reacted faster than the fans. They knew Yun Hu would definitely rush over. But they believed they could take Lin Feng's head. There was still time for him to retreat quickly after that. The time difference wasn't wrong. But just as Lin Feng was 1 HP away from dying, he leaped from the left to the right. He leaped from the far left to the far right. Not only did he eat the HP bags under the defense tower, but he also fired a long-range cannon at them. Not good. One of them couldn't help but shout, "Retreat!" He could still retreat. But his teammate... It was too late. Yun Hu leaped out from the wilderness, using a big move to attack. First HP, first kill. But that wasn't the end. Yun Hu took the opportunity to move up. It wasn't too difficult to catch up to someone with less than half of his HP. That person jumped into the bushes and after dodging the attack, he wanted to return to the tower. Yun Hu didn't give him the chance. He forced his way into the tower and did a double kill. Under the enemy's tower, his HP was bound to drop. Yun Hu used the skill that was meant to kill. He straightened his spear and pulled it back, returning to the city with low HP. This round of fighting was very fast. A second ago, the audience was still worried that Lin Feng would be insta-killed. The next second, the sound effect of Yun Hu's double kill could be heard. Of course, Lin Feng was the reason why he was able to do this. Jumping back to the tower to eat the HP pack was especially crucial. If he hadn't moved so quickly, Lin Feng would have died in the bushes and Yun Hu wouldn't have been able to get the double kill so easily. Therefore, it could be said that their cooperation was on point. Be it Lin Feng's maneuver, the timing of Yun Hu's appearance, or the final tower kill, the audience widened their eyes in shock. What followed was a wave of cheers. Yan Yixiao's expression changed. He tapped his fingers, his gaze lowered. As expected, the two from Supreme Alliance are really good when they work together. Wang Su didn't look. He only had eyes for Yin Wuyao, who had fought against him in the previous match. Yan Yixiao hurriedly blocked him. Focus on our team. Don't worry, based on my relationship with Uncle Yin, I can arrange a meal for you. Wang Su glanced at him. He wasn't interested and continued to watch Yin Wuyao. When Uncle Yin tilted his head to light his cigarette, he felt that something was amiss. Yan Yixiao couldn't control his ace rookie anymore. He could only reach out his hand and open his communicator. Lin Feng's hand speed is much faster than before. One of you, approach him while the other advances. Knock him out. In short, their strategy was targeted at Lin Feng. Grand Realm's team composition was clear as well. Out of the two Supreme Alliance members, Yun Hu was stronger than Lin Feng. Once again, they moved to intercept him. One of them was very close while the other hid in the bushes to catch Lin Feng. Unexpectedly, Lin Feng jumped once before rebounding, blasting the crystal tower with his cannon. After destroying the tower, he retreated swiftly, leaving no chance for an ambush. This wasn't the Lin Feng they knew. Up until this point in the competition, everyone who participated in the National League would understand their opponent's tactics and habits to a certain extent. Lin Feng hadn't been like this in the past. Did you try to catch Daddy but didn't manage to? Lin Feng swept his fingers, creating a soldier. He didn't forget to gloat. Do you think Daddy is the type to jump into a hole you dig? Coco was conflicted. He was in the past. He must have been enlightened by Almighty Yun's words and actions before the start of the competition, Bojio replied nonchalantly. But she didn't know that her words were the key to a certain someone's enlightenment. After all, Lin Feng had planned it himself. He was such a domineering person. How could he lower himself to his brother's level? What if he lost and that guy really pulled him into bed? He hadn't forgotten that Yun Hu didn't look fat, but once he took off his clothes, he would be able to see his abs. It was despicable to bully a pretty boy without abs like him. Lin Feng felt that he might as well win in the game so that he wouldn't have to worry about that. What the F***CK? He didn't want to waste time talking, just one word, fight. Lin Feng's murderous aura came out of nowhere. Grand Realms members who were hiding in the bushes didn't understand what was going on. The shoutcaster commented, "Seems like Lin Feng is in good form today." Indeed. The other shoutcaster nodded in agreement. It's not just their hand speed. Their mental fortitude has improved as well. It looks like the outcome of the last match didn't affect the Feng Yun duo at all. Grand Realm will have to take it seriously. Otherwise, it'll be easy for them to lose their rhythm. Grand Realms members understood this logic. They changed their strategy swiftly, heading towards the crystal tower from the left and right. The faster they moved, the harder it was for Lin Feng's cannon to hit them. This time, their speed and positioning were much faster. But the difference in a battle between experts was usually just a hair's breadth. Even though Lin Feng had died in the second clash, the opponent had also lost a member. That wasn't all. Yun Hu had made use of the time difference to destroy 2 defense towers at the bottom lane. It was obvious who would emerge victorious in this 2v2. But even so, Grand Realm wasn't easy to deal with. Because there wasn't such a thing as retreat in their dictionary. After the two of them twisted into a rope, they counterattacked and the target was Yun Hu. The competition intensified. This kind of back and forth dragged on for a very long time. In the end, Lin Feng aimed a long-range cannon at the enemy member who had died twice. There was a loud boom. The game's music blared. A portion of Grand Realm's screen turned gray. After 3 deaths, the contestants were automatically eliminated. This also meant that the game had become a 2v1. The fangirls couldn't help but cheer. Yunhu and Lin Feng didn't stop, aiming their attacks at the defense tower as they charged into the city. Grand Realm was left with 1 member, and it wasn't easy for them to leave the city. The moment they did, they would be attacked by Lin Feng's cannon. If they didn't, they would only be able to watch as the city fell. Speaking of which, this person was also very powerful. He had defended 3 waves of troops. But no matter how impressive he was, he couldn't withstand Lin Feng's stubbornness. Until the 4th line, he couldn't hold on any longer. When the crystal shattered, he removed his earpiece and heaved a sigh of relief. The atmosphere froze for a second, followed by an uncontrollable frenzy. We won. Supreme Alliance won. Ah, why do I find Grand Realms members so handsome? Everyone is handsome. It's the cutest Feng Yun CP. Especially Feng Yun. He seems to be off track today. Actually, he wasn't off track. Yun, who glanced over, his fingers brushing past the black earpiece on his left ear. He knew better than anyone else how much effort and time a certain someone had put into this match. She was obviously a lazier person than anyone else. Even if she had a little bit of time, she would want to rest for a while. However, she did not sleep early for 3 days in a row. She dragged him along and tried again and again to find ways to improve her hand speed and coordination in a short period of time. As a certain someone charged forward, he would advise himself to calm down in case it was a trap. Regardless of what he did, the innocent and sweet someone always made people laugh. It was the same now. After Yun, who removed his earpiece, the first thing he did was to hug Lin Feng, who was still whistling at the crowd. They were brothers after all. They had been together for so many years. The joy of success had to be shared. Lin Feng hugged him back instinctively. The moment he hugged him, he felt something was amiss. Immediately, they separated. He raised his gaze as high as he could and glanced over at Yunhu. What he meant was, today's competition is over. Try threatening me again. Yunhu lowered his lids, breaking into a smile. He leaned over. You seem so happy with your victory. Shall we celebrate in bed? Lin Feng was dumbfounded. F***ck, it was fine if he lost, but now he was talking about it in bed after winning. He looked like he really believed him. Yunhu couldn't help but reach out and caress his head. He smiled happily. Lin Feng stilled. It had been a long time since he saw Yunhu smile like this. He seemed to be calm every day. Actually, there were times when he didn't know what he was thinking. Forget it. He had won anyway. As for the rest, they were nothing. Lin Feng smiled, revealing his snow-white teeth. He walked towards the youngster, stretching out his right hand. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.